So this is a video about poinsettias and how to make sure that they keep going year after year. Now I've in the past had many difficulties with poinsettias. I normally buy them in December at Christmas time when they're in the shops. They look lovely, they're red bracts, they're a really Christmassy plant. But as soon as January comes, the leaves always fell off and they just died on me. But this year I've had the opposite and they've actually grown one, and this is now beginning of September, and as you can see it's really lush, lovely green leaves, and hopefully in the next few months it will go red again, ready for Christmas. It's just a couple of the red leaves you can see lower down from last year, just down there, and a few more on this side, but generally it's all green now. So what happened with this one is I looked after it in actually not a very sunny position. It was fairly low light levels. It was a north facing window, but kept fairly warm. I think one of the big issues is it gets too cold, but also people overwater them. So when you have it at home, it may well lose a lot of the leaves. I mean, this one lost a lot of leaves and I thought it was going the same way as all my other ones, but I kept it fairly dry. I just felt for the weight of it. Now I didn't give it a lot of water, I just kept it slightly damp. I let it dry out between waterings and that seemed to do the job. Also kept it quite warm, so I didn't let it go below 15 degrees. And it seemed to do a lot better than the last years. Then through January it didn't do a lot. It lost a couple more leaves. But when it came to February, March and the light levels became better, it did finally start to grow. And as you can see here, I fed it and it's really bushed out and it's got lots of lovely leaves. So I think if you want to look after your poinsettia, make sure it's somewhere that gets quite a bit of bright light throughout the day, but not any direct sunlight. Keep it quite dry until it starts to grow again in the spring. And even if it looks like it's dying, just bear with it and it might pull through later on in the year. Obviously if it goes brown and brittle, then it has died. But even if it has lost all the leaves and the stems are still green, there's still a chance it might come back. So in spring, when it starts to grow, it'll be a bit slow to begin with, but then it'll start picking up. As soon as it starts putting on growth, give it a balanced feed to get it going again. It should have nice lush green foliage like this. If it's quite leggy, which it might be, you can cut it down quite low, about here, about 10 centimeters, 4 inches. Just to reinvigorate the plant. And then you can increase the watering, but I would never let it get wet, and I'd always let it dry out a little bit between watering, because it is quite temperamental when it comes to overwatering. And when it comes into autumn, if you're living far north, then it's not an issue with daylight. It should automatically turn red. So what you'll need to do is just keep it on a windowsill that's fairly bright, so it has enough energy to keep growing, and as the nights get darker and longer, it'll realise it's later in the year and it will start to put on red foliage like you see at winter, and it'll have the little tiny flowers. If you're living somewhere with bright street lamps or artificial lights, you'll need to move it somewhere that gets properly dark at night, because even if it's in the living room or something and you have your light on it in the evenings, that will be too much for it and it will think it's still summer and it won't turn red. So I've got it in a spare room actually, so there's no lights on, there's no artificial lights that go on in the evening. You just occasionally have guests there, but it's not enough to make the plant think it's summer. So the only light it gets is natural daylight, and that should turn it red. So poinsettias, they can be kept for several years. They are actually a small tree or a large bush. So they will get very large eventually, but you can always prune them. That's my lovely healthy poinsettia that I've managed to keep for about a year now.